In early March 2023, Mishé's life took a turn no one expected. After a messy breakup with the jerk Kirkland Warren, and finding herself caught up in his financial schemes, she and her daughter Lila vanished without a trace from Vancouver, Washington. Want to know exactly what happened to Mish and her little girl, Lila? Then stay tuned for this story full of mysteries. Subscribe to our channel now. It was a cold morning on March 12, 2023, when the usual quiet of the Vancouver, Washington police emergency line was shattered by a desperate call. On the other end, a grandmother, her voice choked with anguish, pleaded for help. Her daughter, 27-year-old Mish, and her adorable 6-year-old granddaughter, Lila, had disappeared without a trace. The grandmother, known for her strength and courage, was now consumed by a paralyzing fear. She described to the operators how Mish's sudden silence was deafening and completely out of character. Mish was a devoted mother who always put Lila's safety and well-being above all else. The thought that something could have happened to them was unbearable. Every second that passed without news amplified the sense of urgency. The grandmother detailed the moments leading up to the disappearance, recalling with precision the last contact she had with Mish. In her mind, every detail was a potential thread that could lead to their whereabouts. She begged the police to act swiftly, fearing time was running out. The call triggered an immediate alarm among the authorities. The police force, familiar with the city's peaceful routine, felt the weight of the disappearance heavily. They knew the first few hours were critical in any investigation, and this was no exception. With heavy hearts and renewed determination, the police launched an intensive search operation, while the community, united by shock and hope, anxiously awaited news. As the investigation gained momentum, a name emerged from the shadows of Mish's past: Kirkland Warren, her ex-boyfriend. Kirkland wasn't just a figure from the past. He represented a turbulent chapter in Mish's life, marked by emotional highs and lows. Their relationship had been a roller coaster of intense emotions, filled with heated arguments and fleeting reconciliations. Kirkland was identified as the last person to see Mish before her mysterious disappearance. This revelation cast a new light on the case, making Kirkland a central piece of the puzzle the police were determined to solve. The authorities quickly realized that his connection to Mish could be the key to unraveling the mystery of the disappearance. The story of Kirkland and Mish was known to many in the community. Friends and family recalled the frequent fights and Mish's attempts to distance herself from Kirkland, seeking a safer environment for herself and Lila. However, like many complicated relationships, there was always an invisible thread that seemed to pull the two back together, even when everything indicated they should go their separate ways. The police, aware of the tumultuous relationship, decided to question Kirkland. The questions hung heavy in the air as they tried to extract every detail of his last encounter with Mish. Kirkland, with a calculatedly calm demeanor, described the meeting as routine, insisting that Mish seemed fine when he left her. However, the inconsistencies in his statements and his evasive behavior only heightened suspicions. The tension in the investigation mounted as detectives delved into Kirkland's past, searching for any indication that could link his actions to the disappearance of Mish and Lila. The city of Vancouver waited with bated breath for a resolution that could bring Mish and Lila home. As the investigation progressed, detectives began to uncover layers of a past unknown to many in Vancouver. Kirkland Warren's name, already shrouded in suspicion due to his relationship with Mish, became even more ominous as new information surfaced. Through meticulous analysis, the police discovered that Kirkland wasn't just a troubled ex-boyfriend, but a man with a history of violence. Investigations revealed a possible connection between Kirkland and an unsolved murder that occurred years earlier in another city. This shocking detail added a layer of urgency and gravity to the investigation, transforming the disappearance of Mish and Lila into something potentially much darker. Local authorities, under pressure to solve the case quickly, intensified their efforts, working tirelessly to connect the dots between Kirkland's past and the fate of Mish and Lila. Each new discovery seemed to paint an increasingly grim picture, making it clear that the city was in the midst of a tragedy no one could have foreseen. As the investigation continued, a sense of unease permeated Vancouver, uniting the community in a silent vigil for truth and justice. The disappearance of Mish and Lila was no longer seen as an isolated incident, but as part of a macabre story that would leave deep scars on everyone involved. The city of Vancouver, generally seen as a safe haven by its residents, held a lesser-known reality: a violent crime rate of 6.32 per 1,000 residents. While this statistic might have seemed like just a cold, distant number to many, it gained a new and terrifying relevance with the disappearance of Mish and Lila. The case of the two missing women brought to the surface a latent fear the city had been trying to ignore. Vancouver, with its tree-lined streets and quiet neighborhoods, now faced a harsh reality. The perception of safety had been shattered, and the disappearance of Mishé and Lila became a symbol of the vulnerability many felt but rarely spoke about. For the police, the statistic wasn't just a piece of data, but a constant reminder of the need for swift and effective action. The rise in violent crime in the city meant that every case, especially that of Mishé and Lila, needed to be handled with utmost urgency and care. The pressure on the authorities was immense, with the community demanding answers and results. Residents, once at ease, now found themselves taking extra precautions, reinforcing security systems, and forming neighborhood watch groups. Conversations in the city's coffee shops and parks revolved around one central question: how could this happen here? The crime rate, once a mere number in the annual statistics, now had a face, that of Mishé and Lila. The city was united in its concern, and the pursuit of justice became not just a police mission, but a community-wide effort to restore a sense of safety and normalcy. During the course of the investigation, Kirkland Warren was called in for questioning again. He gave his account of the events on the night of Mishé and Lila's disappearance. Kirkland claimed that on that fateful night, Mishé and Lila had spent the evening at a friend's apartment. According to him, the atmosphere was relaxed and friendly, with no indication that anything was about to go wrong. The next morning, Kirkland claimed to have driven Mishé and Lila to their destination in his Dodge Charger. He described the morning as routine, with Mishé and Lila appearing to be in good spirits. However, despite his words sounding convincing, there was something about his tone and the way he described the events that didn't quite fit. Detectives, accustomed to reading between the lines, sensed something was amiss. Kirkland's narrative, though seemingly straightforward, left gaps that only fueled suspicions about him. Every seemingly innocent detail he provided was meticulously analyzed for inconsistencies or clues that could be used to connect the missing dots in the investigation. Kirkland's account, instead of bringing clarity, only added more layers of mystery to the disappearance of Mishé and Lila. The authorities knew they needed more than words to move forward with the case. Concrete evidence was required to uncover the truth behind that morning that had started so calmly but ended in silence and uncertainty. What do you think really happened to Mishé and Lila on that mysterious morning? I'm dying to hear your theories and thoughts on this crazy story. Let me know in the comments below. During the intense interrogations, Kirkland Warren continued to recount his version of events with careful confidence. He stated that, after a seemingly normal morning, he drove Mishé and Lila back to where their car was parked. His description of this final moment was eerily precise. He remembered the sound of the Dodge Charger's tires on the asphalt, the overcast sky that hung above them, and Lila's carefree smile as she waved goodbye. Kirkland insisted that upon reaching their destination, he saw the two get out of his car and walk towards their own vehicle. He watched as Mishé, holding her daughter's hand, walked away. To him, it seemed like just another ordinary day. However, the detectives remained unconvinced by the simplicity of his narrative. Kirkland's claim that this was the last time he saw Mishé and Lila alive raised more questions than answers. If they truly parted ways so peacefully, why hadn't Mishé and Lila been seen since? Kirkland's detailed description, rather than closing the mystery, opened up new avenues of investigation. Investigators knew time was of the essence, and any detail, no matter how small, could make all the difference. They turned their attention to analyzing security footage and seeking out witnesses who could corroborate or refute Kirkland's account. Meanwhile, the city of Vancouver remained in a state of heightened tension, with everyone wondering what the next development in this dark and intricate plot would be. As days turned into weeks, the lack of news about Mishé and Lila transformed the community's initial anxiety into palpable despair. The once peaceful city of Vancouver now thrummed with a noticeable tension as pressure mounted on the police. The detectives, aware of the growing impatience of the media and the public, knew they needed a breakthrough, something that could illuminate the path to finding the two women. It was during one of these meticulous searches that the police made a discovery that reignited the flames of hope and uncertainty. In a neighborhood unsettlingly close to Kirkland's apartment, Mishé's car was found. This vehicle, which for many symbolized hope and freedom, was now stationary on a quiet street, like a silent witness to something dark. Despite appearing untouched, the car exuded an air of neglect, suggesting it had been left there in a moment of haste or desperation. The discovery of the car wasn't merely circumstantial. It cast a new light on Kirkland, intensifying the already heavy suspicions surrounding him. For the detectives, the vehicle's proximity to Kirkland's apartment wasn't seen as a random coincidence, but rather as a crucial link that needed to be rigorously investigated. Every detail surrounding the car, from the position of the seats to the condition of the tires, was meticulously examined, Searching for clues that could reveal the whereabouts of Mish and Lila inside the car, Mishé's personal belongings told a silent story of her everyday life. Simple items, like a forgotten lipstick in the glove compartment or a notepad with scattered annotations, painted an intimate picture and reinforced the gravity of the situation. However, instead of providing the desperately needed answers, the discovery of the car only deepened the mystery. Each item found was a piece of the puzzle that, instead of fitting, seemed to multiply the unanswered questions. The Vancouver community, already devastated by the disappearance, now faced the grim reality that the situation was more serious than imagined. The discovery of the car, far from bringing the expected relief, generated a new wave of fear and uncertainty. A palpable sense of apprehension filled the air as everyone wondered what had really happened to Mish and Lila. The once vibrant streets now seemed to whisper secrets and broken promises, as the search for the truth became a race against time, clinging to the hope that a positive outcome was still possible. Amidst the growing tension and increasingly intense investigations, an unexpected detail emerged, casting a new shadow of doubt over the events surrounding Mish and Lila's disappearance. Kirkland Warren, in an attempt to justify his actions following the separation on that fateful day, revealed an intriguing detail. Upon returning to his Dodge Charger, he found Mishé's purse left on the passenger seat. This wasn't just a personal item. Inside were important documents, a terrible link to the life Mish had left behind. With an expression of concern, or so he claimed, Kirkland described his frantic attempts to contact Mish. He stated that, upon realizing she had left her purse, he made several calls to her. Each one met with only silence on the other end. Each failed attempt at communication not only added to the mystery of Kirkland's narrative, but also raised unsettling questions about his true intentions and what really transpired after that last encounter. For the investigators, Mishé's purse was more than just a forgotten item. It was a key piece in an increasingly complex puzzle. They knew the contents could offer vital clues, potentially revealing a path to understanding what truly happened to Mish and Lila. Mishé's lack of response to Kirkland's attempts to contact her heightened the suspicion that something was terribly wrong, a feeling that weighed heavily on everyone involved in the investigation. While Kirkland insisted on his story of concern and repeated attempts at contact, the detectives continued to scrutinize every detail, skeptical of the veracity of his words. The purse, with its documents and potential secrets, was treated as crucial evidence, each item carefully examined for any indication that could shed light on the disappearance. The city of Vancouver, plunged into an atmosphere of uncertainty and fear, anxiously awaited any news that could illuminate the fate of the two missing women. Each passing day without new information amplified the community's anguish, as the hope for a positive outcome morphed into a race against time. The mystery seemed to deepen with every passing moment, leaving everyone in suspense, waiting for a revelation that could finally bring peace to such a disturbing enigma. As the investigation deepened, detectives began to unravel layers of secrets and lies surrounding Mish and Lila's case. What initially appeared to be a simple disappearance soon transformed into a complex web of illicit activities, centered around Kirkland Warren. His shady connections and calculated actions extended far beyond what investigators initially imagined. At the heart of this plot was a meticulously orchestrated theft scheme involving his wife, Monae. Kirkland, with his manipulative charm and persuasive abilities, had crafted an operation that seemed almost impenetrable. Within this scheme, Mish found herself entangled, perhaps against her will or under unbearable pressure. The investigation revealed that she had been convinced to open a bank account in her name, an act that, on the surface, appeared innocent, but in reality, served to conceal a staggering $220,000 embezzlement. The discovery of this scheme not only complicated the case but also raised disturbing questions about the relationship between Mish and Kirkland. Was Mish a reluctant participant, coerced into collaborating under threat, or had she been deceived, trapped in a dangerous game from which she couldn't escape? The bank account in her name became a symbol of betrayal and desperation, carrying a secret that was now coming to light, deeply intertwined with the mystery of her disappearance. For the police, this new line of inquiry meant the case extended beyond missing persons, touching upon the realm of large-scale financial crime. The connection between the theft and the disappearance of Mish and Lila could be the key to unraveling what truly transpired. Every document, every transaction, was scrutinized, hoping to find clues that could finally crack the case. As the plot unfolded, the Vancouver community watched in shock. The image of Mish, a caring mother, was now tainted by the association with criminal activity, and the line between victim and accomplice became increasingly blurred. The theft scheme, far from providing clear answers, only deepened the mystery, leaving everyone anticipating a resolution that seemed increasingly complex and elusive. The tension mounted with each passing day, with a growing sense that, at any moment, the the truth could emerge, revealing the full extent of the criminal network and finally bringing justice for Mishé and Lila. The community, the investigators, and the families waited, yearning for closure to this saga that had captured everyone's attention and hearts. As the investigation progressed, the interconnectedness of Mishé and Monae's lives through Kirkland Warren became a central focus, revealing a plot of complexity and danger that few could have predicted. What initially appeared to be an unfortunate coincidence between two women was ultimately revealed to be a crucial link in a vast web of criminal activity. This discovery not only complicated the case but also introduced a palpable tension as the depth of each individual's involvement began to surface. Kirkland, with his deceptive charisma and manipulative skills, was the architect of this intricate web. He had managed to unite Mishé and Monae in a scheme that transcended the boundaries of personal relationships, involving them in illegal activities ranging from financial crimes to potentially other undiscovered offenses. For the detectives, the discovery that Mishé, a young mother dedicated to her daughter's well-being, was involved in this underworld alongside Monae came as a shock. It raised disturbing questions about what could have led her to partner with Kirkland down such a risky and desolate path. Monae, for her part, wasn't merely a passive partner. Her relationship with Kirkland was a strategic alliance, where every move was carefully planned to maximize gains and minimize risks. Together, Mishé and Monae formed a duo whose roles were as complex as the criminal network they were helping to weave. Their relationship, mediated by Kirkland, not only complicated the narrative of Mishé and Lila's disappearance, but also lifted the veil on an organized crime operation that cast a shadow over the community. The Vancouver community, already fragile from the disappearances, was confronted with a new and unsettling reality. The case was no longer just about finding two missing people, but about unmasking an undercurrent of criminal activity that challenged the perceptions of everyone involved. The impact was profound, shaking the trust and sense of security among residents, who now wondered who else might be implicated. The truth, still nebulous and out of reach, remained shrouded in a veil of secrecy and intrigue. The authorities were determined to unravel the complex relationship between Mishé, Monae, and Kirkland, penetrating each layer of deception in the hope of illuminating this dark enigma. Every new clue was a potential piece of the puzzle that needed to be put in its rightful place to finally bring justice and answers to a community seeking peace. If this story full of mysteries and twists has left you curious, don't forget to show your support and click the like button. During the course of the investigation, disturbing new details began to surface, casting a dark light on Mishé's life and her tumultuous relationship with Kirkland Warren. Among the paperwork and testimonies, a chapter emerged that revealed the depth of fear and courage Mishé had faced before her disappearance. In an act of desperation and self-preservation, she had secured a restraining order against Kirkland, following a violent incident that left not only visible scars but also deep emotional wounds. This incident was a turning point. For Mishé, each day with Kirkland had become a dangerous dance between love and fear, where his actions were increasingly unpredictable. The restraining order was her attempt to draw a definitive line, to protect herself and little Lila from a future that seemed increasingly uncertain and menacing. It was a cry for independence, a courageous step towards freedom from a cycle of violence that threatened to consume their lives. However, in a twist that left friends and family perplexed, Mishé dropped the charges. The reasons for this decision were shrouded in mystery, fueling various speculations. Some suggested that Kirkland, with his manipulative skills, had managed to convince her to give him a second chance, promising changes that would never come. Others believed Mishé might have been pressured or threatened, forced to yield under the shadow of fear. For the detectives, this unexpected turn of events added a new layer of complexity to the case. Mishé's decision raised critical questions about the nature of her relationship with Kirkland and the true circumstances surrounding her and Lila's disappearance. It was an emotional and psychological puzzle that investigators needed to decipher to fully understand what had happened. As the pieces of Mishé's past came together, the gravity of the situation became even clearer. The authorities were increasingly aware of the urgency in locating Mishé and Lila, hoping there was still time to intervene and ensure a safe and positive outcome. Every detail revealed was a reminder of the imminent danger and the need for justice for Mishé and Lila, whose voices still cried out to be heard and protected. On the morning of March 2, 2023, Kirkland Warren's arrest on domestic violence charges seemed, at first glance, a significant breakthrough in the investigation into the disappearance of Mishé and Lila. For the friends and family of the two women, the news brought a brief respite, a glimmer of hope that justice was finally within reach. However, this sense of security was short-lived and illusory. Just days after his arrest, Kirkland, with an audacity that defied all logic, violated the restraining order that was part of his release conditions. This act wasn't just a breach of the imposed rules, but a declaration of defiance against the authorities, demonstrating a blatant disregard for legal consequences. For the detectives, this transgression served as a stark warning, signaling they were dealing with someone capable of impulsive and potentially dangerous actions. The violation of the restraining order became a turning point in the investigation. Kirkland's audacious behavior intensified suspicions about his involvement in the women's disappearance. Every move he made was now meticulously monitored as investigators desperately searched for any evidence that could directly link him to the sinister events surrounding Mishé and Lila. The urgency of the situation was palpable. Authorities knew they needed to act swiftly to prevent Kirkland from causing further harm. The violation of the order not only complicated the case but also increased the pressure on investigators to find quick and effective answers. Each day that passed without a significant breakthrough was a painful reminder of the uncertainty and lingering danger. The case had become a complex puzzle, where each piece needed to be carefully analyzed and fitted into place. The initial arrest, followed by the violation of the restraining order, underscored the gravity of the situation as the search for justice and answers continued. The detectives' determination was fueled by the urgent need to protect the innocent and ensure that Kirkland couldn't escape the consequences of his actions. As they anxiously awaited a breakthrough, the investigative team remained vigilant, aware that every detail could be the key to unraveling the mystery and bringing some peace to those affected by the tragedy. On March 19th, the atmosphere at the police station was thick with anticipation and tension. News of Kirkland Warren's arrest for violating the restraining order put in place to protect Mish brought a mix of relief and urgency to the investigative team. This was the moment the detectives had been waiting for, a critical opportunity to confront Kirkland and attempt to extract the truth about what really happened to Mishé and Lila and the interrogation room. The lights were cold and unforgiving, casting shadows across Kirkland's face as he sat before the detectives. There was an unsettling stillness in the room, broken only by the rustling of papers and the scratching of pens documenting every word. The detectives had meticulously prepared for this moment, reviewing every detail of the case, every slight inconsistency in Kirkland's previous statements, ready to exploit any weakness in his narrative. The interrogation began with direct questions about Mishé and Lila's whereabouts but quickly intensified. The detectives pressed Kirkland about his activities in the days leading up to and following the women's disappearance. Each question was a calculated attempt to destabilize him, to find the crack that could lead to the truth. The tension in the air was almost palpable as investigators hoped that, under the pressure of interrogation, Kirkland might slip up, reveal a contradiction, or offer a vital clue. Kirkland, for his part, maintained a facade of calm, but his eyes betrayed a growing unease. He was cornered, with every answer scrutinized for discrepancies. The hours dragged on, each minute a test of patience and strategy for both sides. The detectives knew this was a pivotal moment. With Kirkland in custody, the hope was that the answers they sought would finally surface, shedding light on the fate of Mishé and Lila. For the investigators, this interrogation was more than just an attempt to extract information. It was a race against time to prevent an even greater nightmare from unfolding. Their resolve was unwavering, fueled by the promise of justice for Mishé and Lila and the need to close a dark chapter that had left an indelible mark on everyone involved. At the heart of the investigation, when every clue was a fragile thread of hope in solving the mystery of Mishé and Lila's disappearance, a revelation emerged that chilled even the most seasoned investigators to the bone. A disturbing detail about Kirkland Warren had surfaced from the shadows of his past, casting a new and sinister light on his character. The discovery of his involvement in a brutal 2017 murder in Arkansas transformed the perception of Kirkland from a troubled suspect to a potentially lethal and calculating figure. The 2017 incident wasn't a simple case of violence. It was a homicide that spoke of a man capable of planning and executing an act of extreme cruelty. The victim, whose name had been nearly forgotten until now, was now a crucial piece in a puzzle the detectives were desperate to solve. The brutality of the past crime raised serious concerns about Kirkland's behavior and the imminent danger he could pose to anyone who crossed his path. For the detectives assigned to Mishé and Lila's case, this revelation dramatically broadened the scope of the investigation. It was no longer just about finding two missing persons, but about understanding the mind of a man who had already demonstrated a capacity for killing. Every detail of his life was meticulously scrutinized, hoping to find patterns of behavior that could connect the dark past to the terrifying present. Authorities began drawing parallels between the 2017 murder and the current disappearance, investigating every possible connection. The concern was palpable. If Kirkland had committed such a heinous crime before, the likelihood of his involvement in Mishé and Lila's disappearance seemed increasingly probable. The fear that he might be repeating a pattern of violence became an inescapable urgency for the investigative team. The revelation of the Arkansas murder not only intensified the investigation, but also highlighted the critical need to prevent Kirkland from inflicting further harm. With each passing day, the pressure mounted on authorities to ensure justice was served, both for the current case and for any past crimes that still cried out for resolution. The determination to capture Kirkland and bring him to justice was now a race against time, driven by the promise to protect the present and honor the lives ruined in his dark past. On the morning of March 22, 2023, the sky was gray, mirroring the somber atmosphere that hung over the investigative team. After weeks of relentless searching and leads that seemed to lead to dead ends, the silence was broken by a discovery no one was prepared to face. In a remote area, far from the prying eyes of the city, the bodies of Mishé and Lila were found, revealing a final chapter of tragedy that no one wanted to believe was possible. The location was desolate, a clearing hidden by dense trees that seemed to guard the terrible secret with a complicit silence. As investigators approached, each step was heavy with palpable tension, the weight of what was to come almost unbearable. There, amidst the shadows of the trees, lay Mishé and Lila, their lives brutally cut short by gunshots to the head. The scene, though silent, screamed of horror and injustice. The discovery that Lila had been abused before her death brought a fresh wave of outrage and grief. The cruelty of the act was unimaginable, making the already devastating scene even more unbearable. For the investigators, every detail of the crime scene was a piece of a macabre puzzle that needed to be solved with urgency and precision. The location of the bodies, carefully concealed, suggested meticulous planning on the part of the killer, someone who wanted their atrocities to remain hidden. This attempt at concealment only fueled the investigators' resolve, who saw each obstacle as a reason to fight even harder for justice. Kirkland, already the focus of authorities' attention, became the prime suspect. His history of violence and recent violation of the restraining order were pieces that fit darkly into this puzzle. The pressure on him mounted, and authorities were determined to leave no stone unturned in their search for evidence that could confirm their suspicions. The tragedy of Mishé and Lila transcended the individual case, becoming a powerful symbol of the fight against domestic violence. Their story resonated throughout the community, sparking an outcry for more effective systems of protection and support for victims. For the investigators, the mission was clear: to follow every lead, no matter how small, and ensure that justice was served. Their commitment was not only to Mishé and Lila but to all victims whose voices had not been heard in time. As the investigation moved forward, the pursuit of justice became a race against time, a battle to bring some peace to a story marked by so much pain and suffering. The investigators' resolve was unwavering, driven by the hope that one day, the memory of Mishé and Lila could be honored with the justice they deserved.